So here's what we're going to do. If we want to develop structures, structures is another word for boundaries or limits. But what we want to do is we want to do it in a collaborative way. We want to do it in a compassionate way with lots of empathy. We want to do it in a way that things are also really clear. So when it comes to your kids and their screens, it's worth sitting down with them, not in the middle of a game and not 5 minutes after you've blasted them for being on there too long. But instead, you go and sit down with them on, I don't know, my favorite one is Saturday morning. Oh, sorry, just let me pause there. Casey, you're sending it to host and panelists. In the chat, you need to send it to everybody. Nobody can read what you're saying. You need to click on to everyone and then paste it back in there. Sorry, quick tangent. So sit down when emotions are low, when everyone's comfortable, and say, all right, guys, this Sunday morning, we're going to have a screen conversation because we're having too many fights about it. We're fighting with you about the content. We're fighting with you about when you're doing it and where you're doing it. And we're fighting with you because we just don't want you doing it so much. And you're fighting with us and it's just not working. So you sit down and you actually have a conversation with them. And you explore what matters to them. What you'll find is that they'll tell you the reasons they like it because it's fun and they're good at it and they get to be with all their friends and they love the freedom. Right? So in other words, they're saying my basic psychological needs are met when I'm online, when I'm playing my games. That's pretty much what they're going to tell you. They might give you a handful of other things and they'll give you some great reasons, but most of them will collapse back into those three things. Those ideas, by the way, come from a theory that was developed in the 1970s at the University of Rochester. It's called self-determination theory, and it's the most powerful psychological theory that I know. It's just remarkable for what it does. And unfortunately, we don't really hear about it very much anywhere. And it's kind of at the heart of everything that I'm teaching. Once our kids have explained why everything's just so awesome for them, and we've really explored and done it in a non-combative way, where we're just saying, hey, no agenda here, kiddo. Just love you and want to understand what's going on because we're tired of the fighting and we know you are too. You'd like it if we didn't fight. We'd like it if we didn't fight. Let's figure this out. And so we're having this conversation. It's meeting your needs. Feels so good, doesn't it? We're actually empathizing with them. We're saying, I totally get it. There's things in my life that are the same. And you might even tell them about things in your life that are the same. And they're going to be like, really? I thought you were perfect. You can say, no, I'm not. I get caught up in my Netflix shows, or I get caught up in my sport, or I get caught up in this or that. And the reason that I get caught up in it is because it meets my needs the same. It does the same thing for me. That's the beauty of finding these hobbies and these habits that are such a delight. But if we've got these needs being met online so well, the next thing to ask our kids is, well, do you think that it's healthy that you're having these needs met online and how these needs being met offline? And so you start to explore what's going on offline. And what you'll usually find with your kids is, not being met nearly as well offline as they are online. And that's when you get to say, well, what can we do about that? Do you think that it's healthy? Do you think that it's wise? Do you think that there should be a better balance? Or do you think everything's okay here? So what you're really doing is you're stepping through what I often call my 3 E's of effective discipline. You're exploring their world. You're explaining what you think is healthier and better for them. And you're empowering them to come up with a solution with you. The whole focus here is what can we work on together to find a solution? And that's what we're talking about when I say we're developing structures. So the structure might be that we don't have screens except at this time and this time. Or when we're using our screens, it's always in a public area, it's never in the bedroom. Or, I mean, you can come up with a million different solutions to this. And this is why I don't want to give you an average answer. I want you to come up with the solutions yourself because your kids aren't average and your family isn't average. But you can only develop structure if you are involved. You can only determine the limits and boundaries if you are involved, working with them, not doing things to them. And the minute you walk in the room and say, that's it, I've had enough, I'm sick of you being on here, what you've failed to do is explore what's going on for them. You haven't explained anything and you've disempowered them. At the same time, you're not involved with them, so you're not meeting their latest need. You're calling them names, and so you're making them feel completely incompetent. And then you're also taking away their sense of autonomy. So Stav has jumped on and said this, and it's so right, using a router with a timetable application. So you can set up all sorts of screen limits on your devices. But here's the thing, that's a structure. And I wouldn't advise doing it until you've talked through this with your kids. So you might decide that there's certain times where it's usable. You might decide that it's best if we just computerize the system so that it's not going to create conflict. Like it's just going to switch off after they've had an hour of this or half an hour of that or 2 hours of this. It might be it's weekends only, no weekdays. It could be once I've done my piano practice and I've done my homework. It could be, do you know what I mean? Like it's up to you to develop the structures based on what works for you and your family and what you feel comfortable with. What I feel comfortable with may be completely different to what you're okay with. My threshold might be here, yours might be here, or vice versa. So there's so many different ways that you can do this. What matters is the conversation that you're having with the kids. It's not so much what you do, it's how you do it, bringing them in. So again, let's go back to the solution. The solution is meet their basic psychological needs offline like they're met online. Get them involved in, well, we'll talk more about that in a sec. The second part is when you're problem solving, what we're trying to do is be involved, develop structures, and there's a third element as well that we need to follow, and that is that we want to support their autonomy.